man, do we have another one for you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Take Your Time, a Persona podcast where we are playing Persona 3 Reload in real time along with the in-game calendar. My name is Jonathon Dornbush, joined, as always, by my co-host, Tom Marks. Tom, how are you doing this week?
You know, that's a mixed bag of a question, but the first thing I want to address is that last episode, I was like, oh, yeah, we can hit some, it's just a vacation episode. We can hit some Confidant rank 10s, maybe. Nothing's going on. And I got through most of the week, and that was true.
Yeah.
I got through most of the week, and everything was fine. And then some stuff happens on the second to last night.
It really does. This is a week of ups and downs. It's a weird one. We're going through the days of November 17th through the 23rd, which, of course, includes the class Kyoto trip.
Mm-hmm.
And a pretty climactic showdown with Chidori outside of Tartarus. So
Tragic one.
Yes, indeed. So we have a lot to go through.
Though you know
there.
that they say about tragedy.
When the feeling's
Just add
done, you can't go wrong. It's tragedy.
No, I was going to say just add time and it's comedy.
Oh, okay. I was going for the Bee Gees. I'm sorry.
I was going dark.
Well, I was going dark too because tragedy is weirdly featured in the film Beetlejuice. For
What?
like an extended... Have you seen it?
No.
The song Tragedy by the Bee Gees, and I grew up in a household where I listened to the Bee Gees all the time. I was actually a very big Bee Gees kid. That aside, it was very weird to hear the song Tragedy almost played in its entirety in this film. Like, I started laughing, and no one else in the theater was laughing, because it was just so funny to me that the whole song played.
Well, all right then. We found a connection.
Anyway, all that to say, we also mentioned last week we were going to be bulk recording this week's episode. We didn't do that.
Yes. It is a week later. It is currently the 21st of November, as a peek behind the curtain. I was going to go on a trip, and then instead, I got a fever. And then I didn't go on a trip. I'm fine. Everything's fine. I've gotten over it. If I realized at this point, like, people might start being worried about me because the last, 2 months, I feel like every other episode, I'm like, yeah, I was sick. It got really messy. I'm okay. It's just what happens when you have a first child who goes into daycare for the first time. You just are sick forever.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, I thought parents were kidding about that or embellishing when they were like, yeah, once your kid starts going to the daycare, you're just going to be sick for 6 months. It is so true. It is, they are a necessary evil, daycares.
Well, what a perfect way and a perfect time to do this show during all of that.
Yes, indeed.
But I will say, getting a fever to miss a trip, that sure is a tragedy.
Much
like this
back
week.
Around.
Yeah. So we're going to be going through all of that, discussing all those things. We do have a couple comments as a result.
Yes. What happened to me
we're going to be discussing
equally as terrible as what happens this week.
Pretty much on the level. We're going to be going through all of that. We're going to be really breaking down Tom's fever. We're going to be going hour by hour of his temperature takes. He really, really kept studious notes throughout his time. So, yeah, we're going to do that instead this week. No, we're going to talk about the crazy stuff that happened. But before we do that, a couple of notes. Obviously, top of the show, as always, we like to do our Confidant call out, which is a huge thank you to everyone over there at patreon.com/takeyourtime, who is contributing to the Patreon at the Palace Ruler tier. Thank you so much to everyone who is showing support for the show, but this is, of course, a special thank you to all of them. So a huge Confidant call out and thank you to the following. Akechi is a jelly bean. Astral Clock Tower, Brody S., Cameron C., Claudia R., Dallas, Damon, Dan, Dan F., Danimal Lover 01, Default Titus, Dexter, I Kill Gods for Fun, Caitlin E., Keegan H., Matt Attack, Metaphor Refantasio out now. It's so good, everyone. Michael V., Philip S., Programmer Sid, Sam K., Sarah M., Shade, and Willy Wang Wang. Thank you to everyone over at the Palace Ruler tier for supporting us and making the show happen. And thank you to everyone at the Patreon who has shown their support and their love for the show. We appreciate the wonderful community over there, all the thoughtful conversations, the questions, the comments. It's been wonderful to have. If you would like to go over there, check out episodes. You get them a day early and ad-free, as well as bonus episodes every month. You can head on over to patreon.com/takeyourtime. Speaking of this month's bonus episodes, we have our latest Velvet Room episode where Tom and I talk about the phenomenon that is Pokemon. We finally addressed them.
Finally talking about Pokemon.
We know people have been wondering.
Red and blue on Game Boy.
We're going gym by gym, route by route through Pokemon. No, we talk about TCG Pocket. Can I tell you, yesterday was my, as of recording, was my fiance's birthday. We both had incredible pulls.
Oh, yes.
We
really?
Both in that day, each a piece, got 3 EX cards that we hadn't had before. It was great. I was riding that high.
I'm very proud of you.
It was wonderful. So anyway,
you found the right boosters.
We did. So I really had to scroll through. I looked at every little crinkle on the card packs. Go listen to us talk about TCG Pocket for a little bit, and also we'll have this month's main bonus episode as well, which you'll hear about more later. I think is a good, unless you want to tease what we said we're going to talk about.
That's fine.
But anyway, hear all of that. Obviously, we'll be back with stuff every month. Looking forward to it, especially as we get toward the end of the year. But yeah, I think without further ado, if there's anything else, that stuff going on, no, we're good there. I did have one comment I wanted to read, and then I want to get to your pop quiz result. This comment actually comes from over on YouTube. A Promos77 wrote, within extended SMT, Sid probably refers to Sid Davis from the Japanese exclusive 1995 game Devil Summoner. In that game, he's dressed as a priest wearing a jacket and a frock. I'd like to think your character gets the jacket and goes, Junpei, tonight we are converting Tartarus. Don't know if that's true, but I love that take.
If that's a lie, it's a great lie. And if it's true, it's a deep cut. But I'm glad that it was actually a reference to something.
Yes, Shade also in the Patreon, I saw that a little bit later, so forgive me, but also pointed that one out as well. They said it sounds a little different than his jacket, maybe. But yeah, well, I hope it's that.
That's cool.
So thank you to Shade and A Promise for pointing that out. But yeah, Tom, I think you stumped them this week.
Oh, really?
But I have a guess, so.
Okay. So the quiz question was, what does it say above the Que Sera Sera sign, the bar that Ken has researched thoroughly and goes to while being a child still? What was your guess?
I didn't cheat and I didn't go back. I am 99.9% confident the word shot is there.
Correct.
Is it just shot bar?
It is just shot bar.
Okay, I thought so. I was like, when you said it, yeah.
Shot space dash space bar. So I don't know if that means like it is saying it is a shot bar, or if it's saying like we have shots and this is a bar.
Well, they would have shot and bar.
They have one.
They have one shot. You got to fight over it every night.
That's what the rare tea is. They only have one.
Take a shot of it. It really heals you. I don't know what it does. But yes, as soon as you said it last week, I was so happy because I remembered reading it on the sign and being like, I don't really know of any shot bars. Like, I don't think I've ever been to it.
It's one of those examples of the sort of like funny translations in the background of signs and things in this game that I really adore, genuinely adore.
Oh, yeah.
And that is like correct but also not quite, it's not a Swede finds a home or whatever on like the movie poster. It's not like total gibberish, but it's also just like a little off still.
A Swede finds a home.
I don't remember what it was, but
I'm just imagining like this 100-minute ordeal of a Swedish man trying to find a home. Well, thank you, Tom, for that one. As always, I look forward to whatever devious pop quiz you pulled from the Kyoto trip this week, because for those who had experienced it, you can go into a lot of side conversations, or you can completely speedrun this week.
Yeah, which we can talk about, because I have some thoughts about all of that.
I do too, because I've done it twice.
Oh, man.
So let's get into it. As I said, we're discussing the week of November 17th through the 23rd, and we have some pretty important stuff to get to, honestly, beyond the trip toward the end of it. I would say maybe.
Though there's some meat in this trip too. To talk
There
about.
is, but I really want to talk about that last bit. So
Sure.
we'll get there. But we do start out on November 17th, which, as we had pointed to last week, you might have bumped into immediately because you are pulled essentially right into the cutscene.
Yeah.
Which is lovely.
This cutscene of them, not even like the travel, it's just you arriving at the train station in Osaka. Or Osaka, Kyoto. Excuse me.
Yes, Kyoto is where they're going.
Anyway, there's a reason I said Osaka, but I don't want to get into it. My brain is a little mixed right now. Yeah, and the thing that struck me immediately about this is that Ryoji is just like fully a member of your friend group now,
right? Yeah.
Seemingly. He's just palling around, and I guess it's because it's implied or it's shown that he's still pretty close with Junpei, but this whole trip you guys are just hanging out. He is very much found his group with you, and is here right away.
Yeah, he has very much Buffy's sistered his way into this, where he just shows up out of the blue and is now a part of things as if he always was. It's very amusing, but to some extent it does make sense, at least in the context here, because it is the boys and girls are a little bit separated in this group, so it right. makes more sense that he's hanging out with the guys, since he's pretty much made a fool of himself with the women in the group.
In the school, I would say.
Well, some of them are enjoying his shtick, it seems.
That's true. That's true.
Not my girl, not Yukari. She's having none of it. Anyway, we see this. I did write in my notes, man, I just want a whole new anime of this group.
Yeah.
Would be nice.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do?
The quality of these cutscenes is always stellar,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
These animated cutscenes are always very, and this is true in Persona 5 as well. I don't know about 4, obviously, because I haven't played that yet, but yeah, the anime cutscenes are always really, really well done.
Always a joy to see.
Mm-hmm.
And so we pretty much immediately get to the inn.
Mm-hmm.
The Godaigo Inn.
Which is super fancy. It's very traditional Japanese, going along with the theme of this trip being, what's his name? Edo or Ono? No, Ono is the guy who's obsessed with Japanese history.
I believe so, yeah.
Ikoda, that's it.
Oh, okay, yes, yeah.
Ikoda being like wanting the kids to celebrate their Japanese roots and their history, and so they're in this very traditional sort of Japanese hotel and inn with a hot springs and a courtyard and all sort of stuff like that. And people are swapping into yukatas and walking around in those. And yeah, it's very cool. It's a sweet place for sure.
Yeah, it's a very cool little area that we get to explore. Obviously, immediately, Ryoji wants to find out if there are geishas around.
Yeah, just wildly, just super strange.
Just immediate horn dog behavior.
I guess called out for it immediately as well.
I guess wants to know if the springs out there are a bath, which we'll find out later in the week. Junpei, Junpei is asking Ryoji about his old class, but he can't seem to remember if they ever had a trip.
Not suspicious at all. He doesn't remember anything about where he came from before here.
You're focused on the here and now, my guy. That's what matters.
Uh-huh.
So that's what he's doing. And then you kind of get to just explore the lobby. It's essentially just like you're going to have to go to your room and end the night, but you can explore this whole area.
Yeah, there's also a really cute interaction where they're like, well, yes, we got to go to our rooms. The girls are this way and the guys are that way. And Ryoji starts to walk with the girls, and then Aiga starts to walk with you and the guys. And they're both like, no. you two swap.
That's not how this works. Yeah, it's very cute.
And then Ryoji goes, man. And then Aiga goes, man.
See, they have something in common.
It's just a really cute interaction.
It's a very good bit. And then you get to have more bits if you'd like, because it is worth mentioning. You're just free to explore, but if you meet your classmates, they have voiced conversations.
Oh, yeah. Another just stunning moment to me of how much voice acting there is in this game.
Yeah.
Every named character you talk to has except for Ryoji, has all of their lines voiced in these scenes. And Ryoji, there was a couple I ran into that Ryoji didn't have voiced, but like all of the other students you talk to, Suimitsu is there, and you can talk to him. And we'll get into this because the as we're about to talk about, the structure of this is very similar. All 3 days, you get to walk around and have conversations that change and evolve, and little storylines play out in mini, right? And so Suimitsu will talk to you about food in a different way all 3 days. It's nuts how much detail there is. And then on top of that, there's also unnamed characters to talk to around the hotel. It's crazy how much stuff there is.
Yeah, what's really interesting about this whole area to me, and I'm curious how you feel overall in structure, I guess is like a good place to start, is this definitely feels like, oh, this is an early PS2 area where there's only so much you can do with an environment like this, so it's a lot of conversations. This is not like...
Sure.
This is not a class trip where you're going and there are fun mini games or there's like a wacky battle system all of a sudden. Like this is you're just learning about the area and the people and getting to see, as you said, these very like mini vignettes play out.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it to an extent. I think is the way that I would describe it.
Yeah.
I think it's so cool. I am so impressed by it. The first day I went into every door.
Yeah.
I talked to every person. I wanted to see all of the things. The second day I not begrudgingly, I went to most of them.
Mm-hmm.
I saw everything for the first half, and then I went, okay, this is kind of dragging, so I'll just check in on the specific people that I remember the storylines a little bit, and maybe I want to follow up on them. And then the third day, I was just like, all right, and only talked to the voiced people and moved on. And I think that's a testament to like just how many there were and how many of them were behind doors and it weren't labeled and all that sort of stuff. But also some of those smaller ones sort of didn't pay off multiple times in a row.
Sure.
Like they just weren't quite as interesting the second or third time, whereas the voiced conversations were.
Yeah. The voice conversations are totally worth it.
So yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with your description there, right? It's a really cool area that is just sort of limited by the origins of the game in terms of what it can really do at the end of the day. And that's fine.
Yeah, like I think back, I guess, to that time, and it's like, whoa, there are 3 floors, and I can go in every door. That's pretty cool. Like that's probably a bigger deal back then than it is now, obviously.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
And so, yeah, to your point, I think the first time I played through this, I kind of went to every door out of obligation each day because I was like, what if I miss something? And I didn't. It turns out I didn't in most of them, but I'm glad I did it once. But yes, to your point, I think the voice convos are the most fun. Obviously, it was very exciting for me the first time I went up to Kaz and Kenji talking by the hot spring doors, and they just start talking, and I was like, oh, this is a full thing I gotta get invested in and care about. It's nice.
Well, and similar to the festival cleanup day, it's just really fun to see these characters that you're only used to in like talking to in social link settings like just interact with each other.
Yeah.
So the Kaz Kenji storyline is very amusing to see how their personalities bounce off of each other, and then there's also Hiraga and who is it? Oh my god, I always forget his name. The guy from the student council.
Odagiri.
Yes. Odagiri, and you don't know that they're third years. That they're friends. They've known each other, and so they have a little interaction that they can chat with, and yeah, it's cool to see these little conversations. And then obviously there's also one of those at the end of at some point. You can get that interaction with Mitsuru and Yukari because, as we'll talk about, they make up and become friends, and then you have a fun little interaction with them, and yeah, so there's just a lot to love in those in betweens, and then there's also just sort of a lot of filler that you don't need to obsess over as much.
Totally. And so I don't
even if it's still fun.
Exactly. I don't think we need to go through like every storyline in detail. They are fun, amusing side things. And to your point, yeah, I think they are at their best when it is like, oh, these characters do exist in this world together. It is nice to have that reaffirmed. So
yes,
it's good to see that. We'll move on to...
My notes do just say, oh no, Suemitsu is here.
He's sitting right up front. He is ready for you.
Yeah, and he'll just talk to you about food. It's really not that bad.
No. Maybe you should finish up on that social link. Just saying.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on to November 18th as we continue the trip. This is when they go visit the Kyoto sites.
Oh,
yes.
There is one moment.
Go for it.
Where I think it's a conversation between two random kids on the first day on the first floor, where they're talking about Ikoda and how all the other teachers wanted to go somewhere else, and Ikoda made us come to Kyoto and go to this traditional, like this very cliche Japanese thing. And one of the students just straight up says, "That guy sucks." And I was like, that's what I said last week.
I feel seen. Yeah, he does. It's not great.
Yeah.
Anyway, we do get to the 18th. They're visiting some Kyoto sites. We basically just get a cute photo reel of them going through. As I said, it's not like we're going off to each location, exploring and doing all this stuff. We're going to those sites.
I wasn't sure what form this would all take. And I definitely think that was like a little bit disappointing initially. Like you said, it's just limited by the older system and the older game.
Yeah.
But it was a little disappointing that it was just like 2 photos, and then you just go back to this, either the hotel or this riverside that they reused 4 times or whatever.
Hey, when you got a good location, you use it for everything it's worth. Yeah.
It's quite pretty.
It's when a show or a movie or a game really gets their budget's worth out of a thing, I really appreciate it. I really loved Agatha All Along, but the main song they recorded for that show, they squeeze every penny out of that song. I appreciate it.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. So you get them going to all these sites.
Ironically,
yes,
the show I watched with a fever for 2 days.
Oh, you heard every iteration of that song under great confusion.
Just like the show. It's thematic.
I love the idea that you're sick through the whole thing and you're like, wait, are the lyrics changing? No, it's just the style. What's happening here? I don't know. Anyway, after we get this little photo montage, we do get, as you were pointing to, Yukari and Mitsuru down by the river.
Mm-hmm.
Mitsuru is obviously still in a place of deep sadness, dealing with the fallout of her dad's death and all of the responsibility being foisted on her. And she's actually kind of confused why Yukari is concerned about her. She sees no reason for them to associate. She's being very prim and proper about it and sort of logical thinking instead of emotionally so about, hey, there's no reason for us to be a part of this thing anymore. Everything I believed in was a lie. And Yukari kind of gets to the truth with her that the idea was that she was doing all this because she wanted to protect her father. And her trust in Akutsuki led to his death. So she was doing all of this to kind of absolve her father's name, to help him, to help get him on a better place in life. And because she put her trust in someone alongside that goal, he died. So she blames herself.
Right. And you also get the little bit of added information that ever since the incident, her dad was like not the same.
Yes.
Right? Because we never saw him before the incident. We didn't really know what he was like. We didn't know his relationship to his dad, who's the seeming mastermind of this or whatever. And so she said she looked dead inside after the incident. And so that's this really interesting thing of like, my read on him initially was that he was very grim and maybe going to turn into a villain or something like that. And really it was just that he was so burdened by this that we didn't know any better.
It makes almost I don't mean it in a rude way, but the voice delivery is very, not monotone, but very kind of level for that character for most of the run. And I appreciate that this helps kind of categorize of like the intentionality of that. It works really well.
Yeah, sure.
I assume the eye patch also maybe came from the incident, or it's just a cool eye patch. I don't know.
Either way.
Anyway, she's feeling like everything she did was pointless. She's so distraught about being led into this lie, and Yukari just slaps her.
Yep, and it never really is addressed.
No.
They just kind of keep going.
Yeah, there's not even a moment of like, ow, oh,
yeah,
God, nothing like that. Just slap, keep going. And her reasoning is basically that we don't know if it was pointless yet. We still have to see kind of the fallout of all of this. Yukari kind of looks at her life and mentions the fact of like she used to live around here and how she's been pushing herself to keep fighting through everything and kind of goes through a little bit of her history as well. And she wants them to resolve to do this together and for the sake of their fathers.
Right. And to finish what they started,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
That's what drives her, is to not avenge them, but to finish what they started.
Yeah, and it's just I really think this moment is sweet in terms of like we have had this back and forth of I think it's fair to say they've not really been friends for most of this run.
No, it's been contentious at times, sort of like cold, but tolerable at other times.
Amicable at best of times, I would say, between the two of them.
Right.
But yeah, we've not seen them hanging out, for lack of a better, specific example. But so we kind of get to see them bond here a little bit. And I think even one of them maybe says like, it's weird for us to be bonding over this, but we do have this in common now. Like we have this mutual understanding of what it's like to lose a parent, and suggests that they hang out, go take a bath, and Mitsuru's persona evolves.
Well, not before she blushes really bad because she is the idea of being naked with Yukari.
I think it's just more,
that,
I take it more as just the idea of hanging out with someone is too much for her to handle.
Yeah.
But yes,
fair.
You're right. That does happen.
Yeah, and we get this evolution that's not a shock at this point, I think.
Yes. Yeah. As we've been going through the cycle of the characters, we had to get to her at some point, and certainly she's gone through it, so it makes sense. We get that to happen. She asks her dad to watch over her, and then it kicks us back to the inn, and you can just have a lot of voiced conversations again.
Yes, and now this is, I think, also where you and I probably had a different experience.
Go for it.
Because for me, I got a text from Ryoji that was like, hey, I want to hang out with you tomorrow. Can we hang out tomorrow? And I was like, yeah, sure. I ain't got nothing else going on. And I, afterwards, once I realized that the place we were hanging out is a riverside full of couples, went, oh, I was probably supposed to have a girlfriend at this point.
Maybe. What's funny is I didn't look at my texts, so I didn't get anything.
What?
Yeah.
You just went to bed?
I did.
No, you're lying.
No, I'm not lying, Tom. Can I be honest with you? I forgot to check my phone during this trip. Yeah.
Oh my God. So you just missed the scene?
Yeah.
So my assumption here,
I
had
seen
the
the
scene with
Ryoji
Ryoji.
scene. Yeah.
Yeah, and my assumption here is that the Ryoji scene is the default, and then if you have a girlfriend actively are dating someone, you'll get texts from anyone you're dating, and then you can also do little riverside scenes with the dating people. And I assumed you would have spent a little time with Yukari.
That's a reasonable assumption to make, Tom. Someone on the show is an idiot, though, and forgot to do it. So I'm actually looking up to see if there is a scene. I don't know if I really want to click the YouTube playlist called Persona 3 Reload Romance Scenes, because that feels like a question for my algorithm. But yeah, you're right. Someone didn't do what they were supposed to do. I apologize.
Incredible.
I might go back and watch because I have a save right before it, actually. So,
okay, yeah. I didn't note any specific conversations around this one, this walking around the town or the hotel, but I did hang out with Ryoji the next day. So since you've done that one, and I did that one, let's talk about that one as sort of the default if you don't have a girlfriend at this point.
Go for it. Yeah. What was your
that's on the 19th.
Yeah, I mean, well, I have nothing else in the evening I wanted to point out. So
yeah, a lot of, again, this is, I think, speaks to like a lot of these scenes are really cute. There's some stuff with Kaz and Kenji sort of like pushing each other on as like what would an athlete do, and there's some cute stuff here and there, but none of it really jumps out at me. Anyway, yeah, so I said yes to Ryoji. He wanted to hang out at the riverbank. And then the next day, this first day is that you're visiting shrines, and then the second day is just like free time. So you get another cute photo session, then you do this riverbank scene with Ryoji. Or if you're Jonathan, I guess just go directly back to the hotel?
I'm not proud of it, but yeah, that's what happened.
Okay. The riverbank scene with Ryoji, I guess I'll take the wheel here.
You go, yeah, go for it.
He says he's fascinated by everything because there's so much he hasn't seen before. So he's just fascinated by seeing all of this stuff in Kyoto. And he bought a souvenir, which was just like a music box. and it plays a song that I'm very curious if someone, just like the Sid's jacket thing, if that song has meaning somewhere, please let me know, unless it's a spoiler, because I would also not put it past them for this like coming up later. But if I didn't quite recognize the song, so if someone did or does know what it is, please let me know.
Wow, it's the final boss theme.
Yeah. He says the place that they are standing used to be an execution site, Mr. Ono told him. And he talks about how the rivers are seen as connections between the spirit world and the living world and places of transitions. He also wonders why people try so hard to connect with each other if they're all just gonna die anyway. What's the point? Talks a lot about death and the afterlife, and comparing the journey of the river to our own journey through life, and it's all going to end up in the ocean anyway, so why does it even flow, I guess, is the thing it's like very high schooler emo poetry. And then he also says that the time he spent with you is precious to him, and then you get your stats up. So, you know, a lot of conversation about death, and hey, look, more hints.
I mean, yeah, Mitsuru dealt with the death. It just makes sense for the conversations this week to continue around it.
Mm-hmm. But it's also Ryoji being very curious,
yes.
Right? It's more indications that he doesn't really know much about the world, to a more severe extent than just like, hey, he transferred from another school. Similar to him not knowing if his school did a trip previously, right? It's these, you're getting more and more moments that this guy is more than just a transfer student, I would say, is not an unsafe guess.
Could be suffering from amnesia. That's a pretty common anime trope.
He's not the protagonist.
Aren't we all the protagonists?
I guess there has been a Persona character I do know about in the other Persona game I've played that had amnesia, so who knows? Never mind. What were we talking about? Oh yeah, Ryoji.
Looks like you have amnesia. How's that fever doing, my friend?
It's a cute scene though, and yes. I think it's funny that he does also acknowledge that, like, maybe you should have come here with a girl, dude.
Maybe.
Because you're looking at all these couples around you. But it is a nice scene. It's very, like you said, like I wonder what the dating scenes, if there are those, are like, because
Me too.
because this scene again is one of those optional scenes that I understand why it's the quote unquote default, right? Because it does tie. You know, I was being on the nose about it being referential or whatever to who he is, probably, as far as I'm assuming. But it also does tie into the Mitsuru thing, and it does tie into sort of the trauma that they have just gone through, and it ties into the scene we get in a couple of days, right? Yes. And so it is very, I know this whole game is to a certain extent about death and loss and loved ones and the connections you make along the way. It is so discussing those themes in a way that is very, very satisfying, and feels like I would have been bummed to have missed it if the alternative is maybe just some cutesy dating scene.
Yeah, it's, as we continue to go on, it's a funny game of interesting and often essentially feeling things being in the margins, especially when some of that stuff has been newer and yet feels so deeply ingrained in why I love this game. Yeah,
it's a pretty impressive to me. I'll say that, even having not played the original, Reload is very impressive to me.
Yeah,
in sort of how it's not only updated the original material, but seemingly enhanced it as well, and enhanced it while understanding what it was about. Yes. That's my read, even as someone who did not play the original, so I could be off base there.
Totally.
But at least that's the vibe I get from what I know is new.
Yeah, totally agreed. Well, after that very, very emotional scene, it's time to go to the hot springs.
Yeah. Oh, is this scene?
Yeah, this is...
Good Lord.
End of the night, our final evening. It's Junpei's got a wild idea. I'm honestly shocked this wasn't Ryoji texting you
Yeah.
with this one, though
Yeah.
clearly they were in on it together because Junpei suggests we go to the hot springs, and it's all of the dudes going to the hot springs.
Because it switches. It's a guys only hot spring and then a girls only hot spring. And so you got to go at the right time. And of course all the dudes go together.
And, you know, we feel like this time is a little weird. Akihiko and ourselves are like, hey, this is a bit of a strange time to be going to the hot springs. Why did we go? And Ryoji and Junpei are basically Beavis and Butthead being like, I have no idea. Wonder why we're here. That's exactly what it is.
It's exactly that energy, yes.
They are so bad at hiding it, which is, I want to be clear, very funny. I think that
it's really good.
It's really well done of like, these are two idiot boys who are like, we're going to see some girls. Like, they're so bad about it. It's so obvious. And
the implication is that they've brought you basically 5 minutes before the swap happens.
Yes.
And just didn't tell you that the swap had happened. And seemingly no one comes in to check if there's anyone in there before the swap happens.
Look, when Junpei applies himself, he really can do tremendous work. He just happens to put it towards the stupidest ends. But here we are, and yes, we are caught.
Calling this tremendous work is truly beautiful.
I mean, I just mean by the fact of, like, he thought this through. Like, he planned out the time. He had to check things. He doesn't know this place. He really had to do his due diligence on the schedule.
Yeah, you're right.
He was thorough, but he should be more thorough about maybe prepping for Tartarus. All that to be said, we go into this peril moment, to pull from another game I've been playing a lot recently, where we are stuck as the time is changing. It is now supposed to be the all-girls portion of the hot spring, and naturally, all of our friends are coming. All of them show up.
The only women who show up are the women we specifically know who will be mad at us if they see us.
Yes, there's not a stranger among them. It is everyone who would be so pissed.
Yeah.
Including
a robot.
Who, I guess, good to know that the tech from the Kurita group is waterproof. Mm-hmm. Glad they tested that out beforehand. Anyway.
There's also a great moment here where Junpei immediately realizes this was a terrible idea and regrets it and starts freaking out and didn't think it would ever work. And Ryoji is like, oh boy, it's working.
Well, because I think to some extent, like, the read I get too is that Junpei hoped it would be other girls as well.
Sure. Yeah. He genuinely didn't want to creep on his friends.
Yeah, he didn't want to get in trouble here also, I think is the...
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, because it's funny, Akihiko is like, Mitsuru is going to be pissed if we know, if they find us here. We cannot let that happen. So...
Yeah, Aki is the first one to really understand the gravity of the situation.
Yes, so it's time for a stealth minigame.
I did not realize this was a minigame until the second question.
That's fair. I didn't either my first time around. Yeah.
And I am so curious how wrong this can go.
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't
because I
failed.
didn't either.
Okay.
And I would love to know from people who either intentionally or otherwise screwed this up.
Yes.
Because the first choice is, do we hide behind this rock right here, or do we go hide in the steam? And hide in the steam is the correct choice, because then Fuka immediately comes over and looks at the rock where you were going to be.
Sure.
But also, this is this very funny moment where, like, time and space don't make sense at all. Like, the noise you're making talking isn't audible. The splashing when you move isn't audible. The steam is thick enough that they can't see you 10 feet away from... Like, you have to just fully suspend logic.
Yes,
here.
It's all for the silliness of the scene. It crumbles when you give it a moment's thought. It really does.
Yeah.
And so
the second choice is either just go for it or throw the ducky.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
I think
because then the third is you book it, right?
Yeah,
yeah, like
it's either just run for the exit or throw the duck to distract them.
Yeah,
and you throw the duck, and then the final one is either just follow my lead and let's get out of here, or you can like wait for your moment. And I do think that this scene is it's a testament. I think that you've never failed it and I didn't fail it without even really fully understanding that it was failable.
Yeah.
Theoretically, maybe it's not failable, but I think it probably must be. It's a testament to how the conversations are written, because you can sort of infer the answer based on, there are these moments where Akihiko and Junpei are arguing, and you can infer what the correct choice probably is based on sort of what they've said in a leading way.
Yeah.
In a very nice, it works really, really well. It just
does.
works very, very well.
No, it's very cute.
I also like that largely the answer is to not trust Junpei.
Which, I mean, he got us in this situation, so fair.
Yeah.
But yes, as we pointed out, we both successfully escaped. I did note that the dudes are really ripped. I just gotta say. I was not like that in high school.
Well, you do a lot of high intensity working out.
True, that's fair. Yeah.
And then one of them is the avatar of death itself. So, that's there's some stuff.
Junpei?
Yeah.
Well, we'll get to that because we do.
What a twist!
We escape, and the girls sort of reassess what's going on. Fuka is lightheaded after all this. Everyone's kind of reacting to the situation a little bit differently. I guess is surprised, not affected by the water, as I mentioned. It's just kind of them taking stock of what maybe happened and kind of like the silliness of the moment.
Yeah,
and that's pretty much it.
And the boys also, Junpei and Ryoji, they say they're passed out on the ground, red-faced.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And I don't know if that's a gag, because they say the heat got to them, but I think maybe the implication is that they were, like, so horn-doggy that they, like, passed out. I don't know.
Are they a dog? They just got so overexcited they fell asleep.
Anyway.
You're probably not wrong. Anyway, that all happens. We escape. Junpei and Ryoji are down for the count. And that's the night.
Yep.
That's how you spend your final night on the trip.
Mm-hmm.
You get to November 20th. It's your last day of the trip. But again, it's really just like a travel day. We're leaving for the station in the afternoon. So we're all sitting in the lobby with the boys. And it's kind of like hey, we don't talk about this to anyone.
Yeah, this scene is very clearly written so that no matter what happens the night before, it can be written this way.
Yeah.
Or like that's how it feels to me, is that it feels like if you got caught last night, they like wouldn't want to talk about it still, or I don't know.
Sure, I get what you mean.
It feels a little multi-use, but then the girls do show up, so maybe
Yes.
I'm misreading that. I don't know.
I could see part of it being multi-use and then segueing into, but yeah, so the girls show up and they're like, why are you guys so tired? And we're just like, nothing. Don't worry about it.
I do love that this was like a harrowing experience for them.
It's the most traumatic thing that's happened to them so far this week.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very much like that Homer Simpson meme. This will be the most traumatic thing of your life so far.
And then, like this game loves to do, we go home and get a full evening.
We really do. And you do have this little fun bit because obviously before you leave, Ken asks for souvenirs.
Right.
I don't know if you bought him anything because you can buy some stuff in the shop. Okay, so you can buy him some food in the shop.
Oh, no. That's why when I talked to him, he was like, oh, you didn't buy me a souvenir.
Yeah, so you can buy him. There's like 3 food options, and then depending on what you give him, he has just like a little line of like, oh, thanks, I like this thing because of this or whatever. Yeah.
I feel awful.
So you really disappointed this little kid.
How could I?
Some big brother you are. Well, that happens. I mostly pointed this out because Junpei also tells Ken he brought him souvenir stories.
Oh, no.
Which 1, creepy, but 2 is like, oh, you did nothing. You forgot about this kid. Got it.
Yeah, but also you know what story he's going to tell him.
Oh, yeah. Ken doesn't need it. He's too pure. Anyway, what'd you do with your night back?
I went on a walk with Koro and Ken to catch up with them because I thought that would be very nice. And, yeah, it's very cute. They talk about what they did while you were gone because it was just Ken alone. Like, Kutsuki is dead. He does not have parental supervision anymore. So it's just this boy and this dog. And he said that he would fall asleep on watching TV with Koromaru, which is so cute.
I mean, if ever there were a kid that you could confidently leave at home alone, yes, it's Ken. And you've also left him with the most protective dog in the world.
Yes, that's very true. That's very true.
I got max rank with Mutatsu. So after...
Congratulations.
Thank you. After rewinding, I think like 3 times over the last couple weeks, when I got max rank with him, finally did it, and it stuck.
I'm proud of you.
So I'm done. I'm done with that monk. Let's move on so we can get to the bigger maybe event of this week in a couple days. November 21st, we learn that Career Experience Week starts Tuesday, so
they're just keeping it going. Every week is a new thing.
Yeah.
Every week is a give. It feels like Greendale. It feels like Community. We're just like every week there's some new thing going on.
The teacher walks in another fun costume.
Exactly.
Oh, the dean. I love the dean.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's Career Experience Week next Tuesday, so we'll, of course, be discussing that next week.
And we're doing jobs? We're going to have a job.
Yeah, and then it just becomes Diner Dash. You're just fulfilling quick orders going on. I would love it.
I wouldn't be mad.
No. You get a class that you can stay awake or fall asleep for in the middle.
Did you stay awake?
I fell asleep because I've always stayed awake before.
Staying awake is great in this one.
What happened?
Because it's just Miss Toriumi roasting every other teacher on the trip, just being like, this person was this person sucked, like just absolutely laying it to every single other teacher. Oh, it was because they all like said other places they wanted to go or something. I don't remember the specifics. My notes just say Miss Toriumi roasts all the other teachers if you stay awake.
She's so over it. I love it.
She is low-key one of the best characters in this game.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I would say of any non-social link, she has to be like top 2 or 3.
But she is.
I know. Yeah, you caught me. You caught me.
That's why it's so good.
Darn.
Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, we get through that class, and then we have our day and night.
Yeah.
What did you do for your day?
You know what I did with my day.
You tell me.
I got Mitsuru to rank 1.
Congratulations.
Woo!
You finally got to hang out.
We did.
How does it feel?
Finally. It feels great.
Yeah.
It's lovely. It was a fun little chat, too. If anybody hasn't done it yet, I won't spoil it. But the only funny thing about it is that she's like, I have something I want to talk to you about. Can we go somewhere to discuss it? And then the scene is just like, you guys hanging out. There's nothing in specific that you're
I thought
discussing.
it was so serious the first time she told me that, and yeah, it's just, no, that's just the dialogue they wrote. It's fine.
Yeah, it's a cute little scene. It's a different little side of her, and I'm excited. I'm excited to finally be having a social link with her.
Yeah. You don't have to worry about spoiling it, because I'm sure we will get to rank 10 like next week, and we can discuss it then. So
Yeah.
I got Yuko to rank 10, speaking of.
Congrats.
So maxed out there. Just friends, didn't cross a boundary.
Well, I don't think this game will care if you do.
It won't. I'm not saying like in a judgy way. I just mean like I'm sticking with my girl. My character is not Polly in this run, so we're sticking it that way. Yeah. And then in the evening we get back home before we get into a little bit of late night stuff. Worth mentioning that Ryuji came to the dorm to hang with Junpei is mentioned.
Yeah, Ryoji and Junpei are just in Junpei's room playing video games, because if you go knock on the door, you just hear them yelling about like some co-op game that they're playing.
Yeah, it's really cute. I also just want to retroactively say I don't know if it's happened, but like you last week, I think having some confusion. I am very sorry if I have said Ryuji at any point in this show.
Yeah. I think just the once.
It's really difficult. What did you do with your evening?
I thought really hard about Mitsuru.
Shocker. Absolute shock. Your next few days of free time are going to just be so obvious, but we'll get there.
I'm a basic bitch. You're going to find that out.
That's fair. I was there on my first playthrough. And then I planted with Fuka in the evening just because my plants are almost up and I figured might as well.
Fair enough.
Then, yes, before we get to the next day, we get this little late night scene. Chidori in the hospital, late at night. She's clearly in a bit of a distressed state. She doesn't even know what she's drawing. She's kind of distraught. And then we hear this calamity happening outside of her room. And walk in. Hold on, those guys were dead. Takaya and Jin.
Show me a body.
They did, and those bodies are alive. So
yeah, Takaya and Jin are alive and have her evoker, which they don't explain that one, but that's okay.
They have her evoker, and they basically tell her not to fear death and come with them.
Yeah.
And then she's like,
you know all too well death is not to be feared.
Yes.
And then he says, you need only fear, ... And she says, I know. But then we find out what that is the next day, so.
Midterms. Yes, that's right. They're all enrolled in school now. No, so yeah, we get that little scene, mentions how someone is at fault for the way things are. And she kind of talks to the idea that like she's suffered every day since he's gotten close. And now she's afraid to die. And we'll learn more about that the next day.
Yeah.
Speaking of that next day, November 22nd. We do get some free time, so give me your day and night before we get into the dark hour.
My day... Well, first I went to the shopping channel and spent basically all of my money on some really expensive gems.
Oh, yeah.
Like 40 grand or something
I still didn't have enough money, so I didn't get them.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I've been buying everything. I got Kamiki to 9.
Nice.
So that's great. And then I gardened with Igus in the evening because I just wanted to get my golden tomatoes up.
Wonderful. I did the same in the evening, also planted with Igus, and during the day I got highest A to rank 5. So our track competitor friend and I are moving our way up in the world. And then we got to the dark hour.
Yeah, which I was not expecting that to come up so quickly, nor was I expecting this scene to be so substantial.
Yeah, this was one where I was like, he's called a lot, but he didn't call this happening here.
Yes, I would. So literally, I had just been having a conversation like right before I played this week that was basically like, when is Chidori going to come back?
Yeah.
Like, is Chidori... Because I was saying, I wouldn't be surprised if Chidori does not come back. I wouldn't be surprised if she comes back and is the main villain. I wouldn't be surprised if she comes back and dies. Like, there was, in my eyes... I'm not saying I called that. No. In my eyes, it could have gone so many different ways. I genuinely did not know what they were going to be doing with that character anymore.
Totally.
And so for it to just, like, suddenly happen and be so, definitive and climactic, I was like, oh, this is very unexpected that they weaved this in here. Yeah. But also I will say, I'm really glad they did this because the death stuff is being teased sort of so openly and also is so the big finale. As in my eyes, at least, it seems like that's the thing Akutsuki was going to try to sacrifice. It's connected to the shadows. It's so linked to the main story. I'm glad that we didn't immediately jump into that, and I'm glad that we did take a beat to talk about Takaya and Jin and Chidori and Strega generally, and revisit that and keep that going while we don't know where we're going with the dark hour stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it is really smart to say, you know there's this thing going on with the dark hour, but you don't know what to do about it yet, so let's bring back this other villain in a more serious capacity now.
Yeah, and to your point, you know, like you've obviously mentioned throughout the weeks of like, yeah, what's happening with Chidori? It is that interesting thing of this has been a hanging thread for so long and obviously matters so much to one of the people who's been in the game the longest.
Yeah, but...
Go ahead.
But, well, what I was going to say is, yeah, but what I did not expect is, you know, from her leaving the hospital to her dying in literally a day is wild.
It's a gut punch because, a funny thing too for me, it caught me so much by surprise in my first playthrough because I thought she was going to become a party member.
Yeah, that was the other place that I was like, maybe she'll just join you. Like, I don't know.
I had, for whatever reason, I don't remember the context, but I had seen like a screenshot or a clip or something where it was like this girl dressed the way she is, like this mysterious character. So I was like, oh, she must be important for the story because she's dressed differently from all of like the standard characters with a persona. So I was like, oh, she must be a party member. That's cool. Can't wait till she joins the team. Then I was like, she doesn't join the team. Got it.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's get into it. Basically, we get a dark hour call from Fuka. We all hurry up to the 4th floor. We learn that there are persona users outside of Tartarus. Obviously, it is Strega. She senses Chidori specifically. So naturally, Junpei freaks out. And then as that's happening, Chidori hijacks Fuka. And she basically tells us she can't stand us. She wants to get rid of us and not begs, but like eggs us on, to come and fight her, essentially. So obviously Junpei runs ahead, needs to be there for his girl.
Like you do.
And meets her at the door of Tartarus. He doesn't get all of this. He's so confused by the situation. He's like, we shouldn't be fighting. And she throws an axe on a chain at him.
Yo, her weapon is hardcore.
Yeah, that's why I wish he was a party member. That weapon is so cool.
Strega's weapons of choice are gun, grenade, and hatchet on a chain.
She's in a Castlevania game. The other guys are like in Contra. I don't know what's happening, but it's cool. I wish we saw more of it. Unfortunately, we won't because of the way the night goes. But she throws an axe at him. The gang shows up, and it's time for actually a fight. So we do have a turn-based traditional fight in the midst of the scene. Our group is attacking whoever kind of you had at your disposal. She heals pretty powerfully.
Yeah.
Throughout this fight.
It is a real fight, but it's not a real fight.
Yes, yeah. It's a fight to get to the point of where it's leading. Yeah.
You just sort of got to whittle her down and not die, and then eventually the story takes over. One thing I like mechanically is that she's a fire user in the same way that Junpei is. They're connected.
It's very sweet.
They're made for each other.
And we'll see that happen further as we go through. But yeah,
indeed.
She's healing pretty powerfully. She has the fire, as you mentioned. Mid-battle, she starts calling out for Junpei. She's kind of confused, actually, about this whole situation, and eventually collapses.
Yeah.
He rushes to her, asks why she's doing all of this, and she starts to kind of talk about the idea that, like, the thing she doesn't fear most is death. It's attachment. And she's become so horrified of the thought of loss. So she's been living for the moment instead. And one of the most difficult things since she met him is that he brought her pain because she's finally feeling attachment. She's finally understanding.
Right.
Obviously, by pain, she also means care. Because
pain she never wanted.
Yeah, pain she never wanted because it is the double-sided coin of you care for someone, there is inherently likely pain as a result of that when you lose them. And so
this is a really powerful idea, right? Yeah. It really resonates. It really is deeply, deeply sad that this person who just has sort of boxed themselves off from the world finally found somebody that they wanted to be with, and the idea of losing them was so horrible, even more horrible than herself dying, that she didn't even want to be with them because it's just really like, I don't know, it's a very, very powerful story.
No, it's
her specifically, and her and him.
Yeah, it's like, I think for me overall, and obviously we have a little bit more to go through, but like just to kind of go off of that point, this scene, if anything, this moment, it's weird to say, but actually hits me harder than the Aragaki loss in certain ways, because I think, to your point, the emotionality of what's going on with Shinji is very like clear and just like, don't waste your life. Like, that is kind of the message of that moment. And here, this message is a really complex idea of like what it means to love someone, what it means to lose someone, the way those are interweaved with one another, how we go through that throughout life, coupled with also Chidori being this character who clearly is suffering from depression, has, these suicidal tendencies, has been going through all these things and has tried to like shelter themselves from that hurt, but has also pushed away the good that comes with that. And so learning the balance there is a very, very deep theme to get at. And I appreciate how it's explored here so quickly. But yeah.
Yeah.
So she's telling him all of this. She fears everything when she's with him because their time will end. And so that's why she would hurt herself. And we kind of get into that. And as we do, Fuka is also sensing the other members of Strega. They appear outside of Tartarus, and Takaya says she's been poisoned by us. She's been ruined by Junpei. And goes to shoot.
Yeah, I do feel like, once again, this party does not respect Gun enough. Just Gun. But then also, at the same time, Robot have gun hands. Robot use gun hands.
Mine actually has like a giant fist projectile weapon, which is pretty cool right now, but...
Yeah. But, like, I don't know. The gun is such a funny thing through line throughout all of these interactions with Takaya because he just doesn't use it. And so you're like, oh, maybe it's, fantasy world where if they get shot, they can take a few hits or whatever. And then every time he actually just uses it, he just kills someone.
Yep.
Just one shot, dead.
Hits his mark.
Like,
yeah. It's the opposite of Supernatural.
And not just him, Akutsuki too, right? Like, Gun win.
Even though they're using fake Gun to summon their powers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So
this episode's gonna
Gun
get
go
labeled with like a learn gun safety laws. PSA.
Sorry. Yes. So Gun win and
Junpei shot.
Junpei shot, and then we get this scene where they're actually magically in the hospital and everything's okay. And that's the end of the night.
Yeah, that's it. The game is over.
I had to stop playing there. Is there more?
No, don't worry about it. We're fine. Tom, go to bed.
Yeah.
Yes, we wake up in the hospital. She's by his side. She talks about how she blames him, but she realized what she had wanted and holds his hand. She wants to be with him forever. She's kind of realized this love, and she's known that since she's known the day she was going to die since she gained her power, she says.
Just wild.
Yeah.
That's a wild thing to just sort of slip in there.
Yes, which it truly, you could take it as literal or metaphorical, and it works either way.
Yeah.
And just basically tells him he can't die here. And so it cuts back to Tartarus. She's using her powers, as we saw in battle, to heal him.
It was all a dream.
In their minds. It's a sideways cut. Like,
yeah, it's a really nice, it's like a very common film technique used in this game very effectively, I think. Even if it's not like a huge reveal, it's just like a really nice little way to have them have a moment before this ends.
Yeah, depending on your viewpoint, it either is or isn't like the greatest episode of TV from The Leftovers, but I'll leave it there so as not to say more, because you should watch The Leftovers.
I watched that show and I don't remember what you're talking about.
I forget the name.
We can talk about it more later.
That's fine. God, I love that show. She is healing him, and she's using her persona's powers. Her persona, we kind of understand, has the power to bestow life, but at a cost, obviously. This life-saving power isn't free. And so as she saves him from death, as far as we understand, she collapses. And she's clearly like on her deathbed at this point. She hears his heart, so she can go on living in him. She's imbued him with her power and kind of says she'll always be with him. And this is the way it has to be, but she'll always protect him. And she's been able to like fully kind of understand and live in this love that she wanted.
Yeah, this is the happiest she's been.
Yes.
This is the most at peace she has been in the entire game so far. Because she also says it's just nice to be in his arms.
Yep.
She says she loves him. And it's like she's very knew this was coming. Again, either literally or metaphorically. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And wants to protect him. Because again, she fears her death less than his.
Yeah.
The loss of him to her is worse than literally dying.
Yeah. And in such a moment of clarity at a time where you would think you wouldn't have it, she clearly does. She professes her love and thanks him and dies.
Yeah. And it's very sad. It's a really, this whole thing is just tragic and very well executed, I think.
Absolutely.
And it was at this point where I was like, I guess Strega left. Oh, no, man with gun's still there.
This was a meaningless end. Yeah, honestly, in the whole time they were having that heart-to-heart, he could have shot all of them.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying about Gun. No one respects Gun.
Well, to be fair, neither does Takaya, because he clearly doesn't know what to do with it.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's calling
her. It's like
her...
every time he shoots it, he's like, oh, that's what that does. I forgot.
I thought
I should have brought more than one bullet.
Darn, next time I'll bring 2. Anyway, Takaya calls her death a meaningless end, and Junpei goes berserk. And as he does, his persona fuses with her persona.
Yeah. And that's his evolution, which is super cool.
Yes.
Super cool twist on that.
I really love that as a little, separation from the rest of them. I wrote down, I think it's named Trismegistus.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Trismegistus.
I don't try with a lot of the names.
That's
Isis.
fair.
That was the one I specifically called out on the show because I know it, and it's only 2 letters.
That's fair. So he goes on this kind of like war path. He blasts Jin with fire. Jin, just the punching bag that he is, gets shot with a fire beam. It's rad.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going crazy, but then Jin holds Takai actually back and is like, don't waste your time on these bozos, boss. We got other things to worry about. And they have this greater purpose, he says. So he throws a smoke bomb down and they run.
Yes. Quite literally that. Yes.
Yeah.
They also... Well, let's finish this scene, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, Junpei is in a furious state, and Akihiko tells him, like, don't throw your life away. She's entrusted you with life. You cannot throw it away now. Like, I get you're angry, but let us think logically about this and plan. And so he's obviously crying that she's gone and at this loss. And he also has this realization of that it's not his life anymore. He's living for both of them in this moment.
Yeah.
And
so it ends...
Yeah.
Not positively, but like he's not in a completely dark place.
Yes, yeah.
I guess is the way to put it. He's not like like after Shinji dies, Ken is like wrecked.
Yeah.
Ken is not in a good state, right?
He is more resolved in this moment. He gets there a
yeah.
little faster. Yeah.
A couple things.
Yes.
One, I don't remember what Junpei's extra theurgy was, but I forgot I wanted to call out Mitsuru's extra theurgy. Because Mitsuru's extra theurgy seems so good, I want to start using her in combat now. Because her extra theurgy was like almighty damage plus the opposite of Heat Riser on a single enemy.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Which just seems like a boss killer. That just seems like a way to shred bosses.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm literally thinking about trying to level her back up to get her into my party.
Makes sense. That's good.
And then the other thing is I had a realization at this moment after when I was thinking about Strega and their goals, because they were like, you can't stop the Dark Hour now anyway, so we shall leave and not bother with you. But like, if they knew that killing the shadows, stopping the Dark Hour was a lie, because they said that before the 12th shadow, why were they trying to stop you from killing the shadows at all is my question right now, because they would have known that the goal you were pursuing to stop the Dark Hour wasn't going to work the whole time.
I guess my question is, do we know they knew it the whole time?
I guess but I mean, that was the implication I got at the 12th shadow.
Fair. Yeah.
But maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe they learned something along the way that this was a lie in some way. I don't know.
Regardless, I totally understand where you're coming from with Mitsuru's theurgy. It's really good. I've obviously used all these, and that one's really, really handy. Obviously, I'm telling my hand a little bit. Use Junpei and use his theurgy.
Okay.
You don't have to keep him in your party forever, but just at some point use the new theurgy.
Just for the animation?
Yes.
Or okay. Not like it's OP as hell.
It's really good. It is a good theurgy. I'm not gonna it's not a bad one, but use it. Yeah.
I'll get him in the party to use it. I'll try to make a point of getting everyone in rotation to use their new ones once.
Yeah, I think that's worth it.
On the next Tartarus trip, because that seems like probably something worth doing.
Yeah. And when you do, we can talk about it more. But anyway, that's that night. and we move on to the final day of this week, which is a holiday. It is Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah, man, this game is whiplash because that whole day and that whole night was super intense, really well executed, really well produced, great messages in the way it ties into the themes of the game. And then you get to the next day and it's a holiday and you're just like, well, I guess I'm hanging out with Suemitsu.
Gourmet King it is.
There's no one else doing anything.
Yep.
And like to spoil rank 4 with Suemitsu a little bit, the notes I wrote down were him with the quote, "Once we're dead, we'll all just be bones." Which, like, that scene right after, it's like, dang.
Good
and
timing.
then the next bit is him having to poop a lot and apologizing about it. So, like, the mental whiplash I am going through.
Just in seconds. But didn't I tell you, there's some worth in having Suemitsu toward the later part of the game?
Yes,
Yeah.
It's true.
I hung out with him as well and got him to rank 9.
Okay.
And
So
then,
you're a little bit ahead of me.
yeah, what'd you do for your evening? To wrap it
Evening, I worked at the cafe because there was nothing else for me to do, and I had done that online thing that gets you more money for part-time jobs, and I was spending a lot of money on shopping things, so
Sure.
I was like, sure, I'll see what it was like, and it was actually it's like a decent amount more money.
Yeah, it's pretty solid. I did the mental instructor on the PC, and I think got my SP up a little bit. So, something to do in the evening.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's our week. That
Yep.
is the weird coda that we end on after a pretty wild, momentous week of stuff.
Yeah, it was a lighthearted but interesting and fun sort of diversion at the beginning, and then a really intense one-day scene that I was not expecting at the end.
Yes. So moving on from there, we will cover the normal week length of November 24th through the 30th, capping off the month. It will be Career Experience Week. We'll talk about what that may entail as we get there. And yeah, that's...
Yeah, we don't know what... Were you able to look at the board and see what job you were going to have? I might have missed that.
I don't know if you could. That's a good
Okay.
question. Yeah. I
Anyway.
don't know.
We'll find out next week.
We will. And since it's been a little bit of a longer one, we do have some actually great comments, but we can save those for next week because I feel with Career Experience Week, light spoilers, a little bit of time rushes through. So we'll probably have some time to talk about stuff then. So thank you to everyone who wrote
Great.
in, especially some thoughtful responses about some of the stuff from last week's episode as well. So we'll include that stuff there. But yeah.
Yeah, and we'll try to work in some rank 10s next week too, but we'll say at the top of the show, and we'll probably leave them for the end of the show, so if you want to miss them, you can miss them.
Yeah. I also should look ahead of just like if ever there is a skipped week, because obviously that would be a very good, like, here's 5 rank 10 conversations, but we'll figure it out.
Yes.
But yeah, that's that week. Tom, before we wrap up, what is your pop quiz?
All right. There was a lot to choose from this week.
Yeah.
I imagine you memorized some stuff, like the name of the gift shop in the hotel.
Is that what you're going for?
No, because you know it. I can see the smile. You might know this. Jonathan,
Yes.
there are a lot of doors in the hotel. A lot of rooms. And every single room on the second and third floor has a unique name. Did you not remember this one?
Tell me what you're going to ask.
I am going to list the names of the doors on all 5 door names on the second floor where all of the boys are staying. And I would like you to tell me which room you stay in. That's the quiz. It's a multiple choice quiz this time.
Go for it.
I think I can get all these pronunciations, but I do apologize. It's been a while since I've taken Japanese classes. So, the names of the rooms are Nanten, Shobu, Fuji, Botan, and Tsubaki. Those are the 5 door names on the second floor where all the boys are staying. Nanten, Shobu, Fuji, Botan, and Tsubaki. One of those doors you stay in. As a bonus point, Odagiri and Hiraga are on another one of those doors. So if you can give me both of them, that's super points for you right there. You can let us know at dornology@gmail.com, at youtube.com/dornology, at patreon.com/takeyourtime. I'm at Tom R. Marks on socials. He's at JM Dornbush on socials. Hit us up. Let us know what your answer is, or your best guess.
I looked at my reflection in the window like it was the Office Jim looking in the camera meme. This is what he's doing to me. Well, thank you, Tom. I'll give you a little post-credit scene for why that one is particularly challenging for me after we record. But
Okay.
Thank you so much for that. Please leave your answers as well as your questions and comments wherever you may find it best to do so. For those who, I guess with this episode coming out this week in the U.S., enjoy if you have any time off for the Thanksgiving holiday. And we'll be back the week after to discuss whatever careers we've experienced.
Getting jobs.
Yes.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone. And as always, I hope you seize the day.